My name is Jana McKelvey, and I'm co-founder of the grassroots organization Texans for Special Education Reform. I'm not an expert in school finance, but I am a taxpayer, a full-time volunteer, and a mother of 3 public school children, 2 of which have disabilities. I have watched the hours of invited testimony brought before this committee. There we go. To say what I have seen so far is a disappointment would be an understatement. Barring a handful of testimonies like those from Mr. Chingos, Ms. Stadler, Mr. Newcomb, Ms. Scheimer, and a few others, most were clearly selected to come and tell you rainbow and unicorn tales about the success of their teacher rating systems, student outcomes, charter schools, personalized learning, public-private partnerships, and other ed reform movement talking points. What many failed to mention were the unintended consequences to their miracle solutions. Like our children's identifiable data being shared with unknown entities without parent consent, with the introduction of blended learning. Like the failure and corruption of some charter and virtual schools, which I know our state has cleared out for the most part, but it can cost the state untold money and students precious time. Like the public-private partnerships infused with investor money that are many times driven by outcomes distorted for financial gain. And most important to me, the further segregation of our Black and brown students and children with disabilities, giving no reverence to Brown versus the Board of Education and the federal law known as IDEA. It came as no surprise when I learned that TEA selected most of these panelists, for this is the same state agency that has spent untold dollars on hostile takeovers of schools after starving them of necessary support for years. Same agency that has denied hundreds of thousands of students with disabilities access to special education supports and services for over a decade. And the same state agency that most recently went into a multi-million-dollar no-bid contract with a startup company to persuade school districts and charter schools via large payouts to turn over our children's confidential IEPs without parental consent or knowledge. And 2 of my children's data were amongst those sold. And yet, until today, they didn't bring a single witness. That's actually not true. They brought a single witness before you on ways to better fund special education. They didn't bring anybody with the expertise in pedagogy and best practices for educating students with disabilities. They didn't bring to you educators, families, or students with in-the-trenches ideas about the ways to improve outcomes for this vulnerable and often ignored population. This state is in the midst of a special education crisis, and yet we heard crickets about our children over the last 2 months. As you head into your subcommittees, I'm almost done. As you head into your subcommittees, it is our hope that you won't take one of your fellow members' suggestion and only discuss what's going to be the most effective and efficient ways deploying the strategies that have been discussed in the last 4 meetings. Because what you didn't hear is as important as what you did. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McKelvey.